Have you ever wondered how families kept food on the table when money disappeared overnight? The Great Depression transformed American kitchens into laboratories of survival. Today, we're exploring 25 ingenious meals that kept millions alive through the harshest winters of the 1930s. Let's start with Hoover stew. Named mockingly after President Herbert Hoover, this one-pot wonder became the signature dish of desperation across America. Picture a bubbling cauldron filled with elbow macaroni, canned tomatoes, whatever vegetables could be scrounged, and if you were lucky, tiny bits of meat that might have been hot dog ends or bologna scraps. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, naming their poverty meal after the president many blamed for their suffering. Community kitchens served thousands of gallons daily, stretching ingredients so thin that finding a piece of meat was like striking gold. At Roosevelt's inauguration in 1933, protesters actually served Hoover stew outside the White House gates. The recipe varied by region and availability, but the base remained constant. Fill bellies cheaply, feed as many as possible, survive another day. Mulligan stew. The hobo camps along railroad tracks birthed this communal survival meal that embodied the spirit of sharing during hard times. Everyone contributed what they could. A potato here, an onion there, maybe a carrot pulled from someone's abandoned garden. The ritual was sacred. Newcomers to the camp had to add something to earn their bowl. Veterans of the rails knew the secret ingredients that made it special. Wild garlic from trackside fields, dandelion greens before they turned bitter, even clean bark from sassafras trees for flavor. By 1935, an estimated 2 million Americans had tasted Mulligan stew while riding the rails looking for work. The largest recorded pot fed 500 people in a Chicago rail yard using donations from sympathetic grocers who saved wilted vegetables and meat trimmings. That's right, one pot feeding an entire community of desperate souls. Beans and cornbread. This combination delivered complete protein for pennies, becoming the backbone of Southern survival during the Depression's worst years. A pound of dried pinto beans cost 3 cents in 1932 and could feed a family of 6 when paired with cornbread made from meal, water, and a precious bit of lard. The beans would soak overnight, then simmer all day with a ham bone, if one could be begged from the butcher. Meanwhile, cast iron skillets produced golden cornbread that could be crumbled into the bean liquid, creating a filling meal that stuck to your ribs through long, cold nights. Families discovered that beans and cornbread together provided all essential amino acids, though they didn't know the science. They just knew it kept their children from starving. Some families ate this combination 6 days a week, saving Sunday for whatever small luxury they could manage. Macaroni and tomatoes. Before it gained cheese and became a convenience food, this simple dish sustained millions with just 2 shelf-stable ingredients. Elbow macaroni boiled until soft, then mixed with home-canned or store-bought tomatoes, created a hot meal that cost less than 5 cents to feed 4 people. Mothers learned to stretch it further by adding breadcrumbs on top, creating a casserole that looked more substantial than it was. The acidity of the tomatoes provided vitamin C when fresh vegetables were impossible luxuries, preventing scurvy in many communities. By 1934, pasta consumption in America had doubled from pre-depression levels, not from prosperity, but from necessity. Italian-American families who knew 100 ways to prepare pasta became neighborhood heroes, teaching others how to make filling meals from these humble ingredients. American goulash, also called slumgullion in lumber camps and mining towns, this wasn't the paprika-rich Hungarian original, but a desperate American adaptation. Ground meat, and when available, was stretched with massive amounts of onions, elbow macaroni, and whatever tomato product could be afforded. More often, the meat disappeared entirely, replaced by extra onions caramelized dark for flavor. Families discovered that browning the onions until nearly black created a rich, meaty taste without meat. A single pound of ground beef could be stretched to feed 12 people when combined with 3 pounds of macaroni and plenty of onions. The name slumgullion came from the thin, watery stews served in mining camps, but Depression-era cooks elevated it to an art form of stretching and substitution. Potato soup. When milk was a luxury and meat was a dream, potato soup became the great equalizer of American tables. 3 potatoes, 1 onion, and water could become a pot of soup that fed a family for 2 days. The secret was cooking the potatoes until they began breaking down, creating a naturally thick broth without dairy. Those with access to a bit of milk or butter added it sparingly, while others learned that browning the onions first added richness without fat. Churches and community centers served potato soup by the gallon, often the only hot meal children received all day. In mining communities where company stores controlled prices, potato soup kept families alive when the mines closed and credit ran out. Cabbage and noodles. Eastern European immigrants called it haluski, but Depression-era Americans simply called it supper. Cabbage, which stayed fresh in root cellars through winter and cost almost nothing, became the vegetable of survival. Sliced thin and fried with onions in whatever fat was available, bacon drippings were gold. Then tossed with egg noodles, it provided bulk and comfort. The combination delivered surprising satisfaction, the sweetness of caramelized cabbage masking the absence of meat. In Pennsylvania's coal country, where many Polish and Slovak families settled, haluski appeared on tables 5 nights a week. Families passed down the exact browning point for cabbage that transformed it from poverty food to something almost delicious. Bread and gravy. Stale bread wasn't waste. It was tomorrow's dinner. Torn into chunks and soaked in gravy made from pan drippings, flour and water or milk, stale bread became a meal that filled empty stomachs. The gravy might be brown from meat drippings saved for days, white from milk and flour, or red-eye from coffee and ham drippings. Southern families perfected chocolate gravy, cocoa powder, sugar, and flour, turning breakfast into the only meal that felt like a treat. Bakeries sold day-old bread for a penny a loaf, and families would buy several, knowing that bread and gravy could stretch through multiple meals. The ritual of soaking hard bread until it was soft enough for toothless grandparents and tiny children became a daily ceremony of survival. Milk toast. This gentle dish, often associated with invalids, became a primary meal for millions during the Depression. Toasted bread placed in a bowl, covered with hot milk, and seasoned with a precious bit of butter, sugar, or pepper, depending on preference. The milk stretched further when heated, and the toast absorbed it all, creating a warm, filling meal from 2 simple ingredients. Children remembered milk toast as comfort food, unaware their parents served it because there was nothing else. Condensed milk, diluted with water, often replaced fresh milk, and the sweetness made children think it was a treat. Some families added a beaten egg to the hot milk for extra nutrition when eggs were available. Soup beans. In Appalachian communities, soup beans weren't just Depression food, they were cultural identity served in a bowl. Pinto beans or navy beans soaked overnight and cooked all day with a ham bone, fatback, or just salt became the meal that anchored mountain families. Served with sliced raw onions and cornbread, soup beans provided a complete meal that cost less than 10 cents for a family. The bean liquid, called pot liquor, was drunk separately or used to soak cornbread, wasting nothing. Families developed precise timing. Beans started at dawn were perfect by supper. Many elderly Southerners still cook soup beans weekly, unable to break the habit formed during the Depression, even though prosperity returned decades ago. Rice and beans. This combination, borrowed from Latin American neighbors and Louisiana Creole traditions, proved that survival food crossed all cultural boundaries. A pound of rice and a pound of beans could feed a family for 3 days when seasoned with garlic, chili powder, or whatever spices could be afforded. The protein combination kept manual laborers strong enough to work when jobs appeared. In Texas border towns, families learned from Mexican neighbors how to prepare beans properly, with cumin and oregano if available. The meal cost less than 15 cents to prepare for 6 people in 1933 prices. Urban families discovered that rice and beans required only 1 pot and minimal fuel, crucial when every penny counted. Potato pancakes. Leftover mashed potatoes transformed into tomorrow's breakfast, lunch, or dinner through the alchemy of hot fat and desperation. Mixed with a bit of flour and maybe an egg, then fried until crispy, potato pancakes turned waste into sustenance. Teaching neighbors how to grate fresh potatoes when mashed weren't available. The crackling sound of potato pancakes in a cast-iron skillet became the morning music of tenement buildings. Families served them with applesauce made from windfall apples, sour cream if available, or just salt. The crispy edges and soft centers provided textural variety in a world of monotonous mushes and stews. Cabbage stew. When meat disappeared from markets or became impossibly expensive, cabbage stew filled the void with remarkable efficiency. Chopped cabbage, potatoes, carrots, and onions simmered in water or bone broth created a meal that could feed 8 people for less than 20 cents. The natural sweetness of slowly cooked cabbage masked the absence of meat, while potatoes provided the bulk that satisfied hunger. European immigrants knew dozens of variations, adding caraway seeds, paprika, or dill when available. The smell of cabbage stew cooking became so associated with poverty that many Depression survivors couldn't eat cabbage for decades after prosperity returned. Yet during those harsh winters, cabbage stew saved countless families from starvation. Dumplings in broth. Southern families called them slicks. German Americans called them spätzle. But everyone understood that flour and fat dropped into boiling liquid meant dinner was saved. The dumplings, just flour, water, or milk, and a bit of fat, swelled in the broth, creating the illusion of plenty from almost nothing. Broth came from bones begged from butchers, boiled repeatedly until every nutrient was extracted. Some families kept a perpetual pot going, adding water and bones as available. The dumplings absorbed the broth's flavor while providing the bulk that made one feel full. Churches taught dumpling making classes because the skill meant the difference between hunger and satisfaction. Offal and onions. Organ meats, liver, kidneys, hearts, cost pennies when middle-class families wouldn't touch them, making them Depression-era protein for the poor. Liver and onions became so common that children grew up thinking it was a staple rather than a poverty meal. The organs, sliced thin and fried quickly with plenty of onions, provided iron and vitamins crucial for preventing malnutrition. Butchers often gave away organs rather than see them spoil, and word spread quickly through neighborhoods when fresh organs were available. The strong flavors that some found offensive became acquired tastes, and many Depression children grew up preferring organ meats to muscle cuts. Salmon patties. Canned salmon, cheaper than fresh meat and shelf-stable for years, became the fish that fed inland America during the Depression. Mixed with crushed crackers or breadcrumbs and a precious egg, then formed into patties and fried, canned salmon stretched to feed 6 from a single can. The bones, soft from canning, were mashed right in, providing calcium that prevented rickets in children. Served with white gravy or alone with potatoes, salmon patties appeared on tables from Maine to California. The Pacific salmon industry boomed during the Depression, canning lower-grade fish specifically for the poverty market. That's right. An entire industry pivoted to feed desperate Americans. Chili beans. Not true chili with meat, but beans simmered with chili powder created warmth and flavor that made poverty bearable. Onions, garlic if available, and tomatoes stretched the pot, while chili powder, often the only spice families could afford, made it interesting. The heat from the spices made people feel warmer in cold houses where heating fuel was rationed. Texas families added masa harina when available, thickening the chili and adding corn flavor. In northern cities, immigrants from various countries adapted their bean dishes with American chili powder, creating fusion foods born of necessity. A pot of chili beans could simmer on the back of the stove for days, with water added as needed. Cornmeal mush. Colonial-era survival food returned during the Depression as cornmeal mush fed millions for pennies a day. Cornmeal boiled with water until thick, then poured into a pan to set firm overnight. Sliced and fried in the morning, served with syrup if lucky or gravy if not, cornmeal mush provided calories when nothing else was available. Southern families called it grits when loose. Northern families called it polenta when they learned the term from Italian neighbors. The versatility amazed families. Sweet for breakfast, savory for dinner, fried for texture, soft for the toothless. Native American communities who had sustained themselves on corn for millennia watched with irony as white America finally discovered their traditional survival food. Cabbage rolls with rice. When meat became impossible, creative cooks discovered that rice wrapped in cabbage leaves and baked in tomato sauce created a satisfying meal that felt substantial. The cabbage leaves, softened in boiling water, wrapped around seasoned rice mixed with onions and whatever herbs grew wild. The illusion of eating stuffed food, something that required effort and looked elegant, lifted spirits even when the filling was just grain. Eastern European families taught this dish to neighbors, spreading the technique across ethnic boundaries. Some added a few tablespoons of ground meat when available, but most made do with rice alone. The cabbage rolls could be made in bulk when ingredients were available and reheated for days. Hash from leftovers. Nothing exemplified Depression-era ingenuity more than hash. Yesterday's scraps transformed into today's meal through the miracle of a hot skillet. Leftover potatoes, bits of meat, vegetable ends, all chopped fine and fried until crusty, created something new from nothing. The key was the crispy bottom, that golden brown crust that made people forget they were eating remnants. Diners across America served hash as their cheapest menu item, and home cooks learned to make their hash stretch even further. Some families had hash night twice a week, using it to clean out the icebox before shopping day. The smell of hash frying became so associated with morning that many Depression survivors couldn't separate the scent from memories of harder times. Thanks for joining us on this trip down memory lane. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe.